Yes, there's an industry partnership called the Trusted News Initiative. We'll refer to it as TNI for short, and it has the cooperation between many media outlets, the big players, combined with the social media giants like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Twitter. Is this Trusted News Initiative central to the issues we're talking about? And if it isn't, are there other similar agreements that are seriously shaping the media landscape that we're in?
I don't know if I can, apply to every which way. I can say transparency in these decisions is what's missing because the Trusted News Initiative is just one example, but it's part of a broader trend, in my opinion, of collaboration between, big media and tech companies under the idea of protecting the public from misinformation. The intention may be good, but when a few powerful organizations decide to get together, now it's risky what's true or what's not, in my opinion. And that narrows down the conversation for me.
There is this group of online news publishers whose content often contradicts the mainstream media narratives. We've got examples of that here, I think, in Australia with Australia's Sky News does a lot of that reporting that's in opposition to the mainstream. Now, there's concern that by these independent news publishers that they're kind of being censored out of the picture by what is a kind of a conspiracy almost between all these big players in the media landscape that are trying to control what's being put out there and branding it as being trusted as though that gives them total validation.
Hmm.
This is a serious concern, and I believe that there's a major antitrust case still current in the US against this Trusted News Initiative. Can you tell us more about how that's going?
Honestly, I'm not on the top of the ball on exactly where the case is going, but what I can say is I know an example in Canada. Okay, a friend of mine was scrolling through social media and she said, "I can't see the story you sent because in Canada they've blocked all the content having to do with this topic of Israel." Canada's not so far away. It's just right there to me. But yet they had this ruling that they can, and it was legal for them to block what was being seen across social media. To me, that's crazy damaging. It's not fair to learn about only one side. You got to learn about everything, whether you're passionate about it, you're not passionate about it. It's not just the algorithm in that case failing, it's a country failing to give the rights of learning about what is around you. And I think that's a horrible thing. So I said to her, just can you please send it to me in an email? So I started emailing her different things that I put up because she was not allowed to see it. And I can totally see that in a similar way happening in Australia. Obviously, it's not occurring now, but I could totally see them censoring it so much because they don't want you to see the other side, whatever that other side might be, or the other opinion, because it's not right. Don't put it there. But that's not how news works, and it's quite scary that something like that could happen.
Just to fill people in, I understand that an organisation, Children's Health Defence, and its allies, which include R.F. Kennedy Jr., the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services, have sued the Associated Press, the BBC, Reuters, and the Washington Post, which is a self-described industry partnership launched in March 2020 by several of the largest news organisations partnering with big tech firms to collectively censor online news. The BBC is a subscriber, and the ABC here in Australia is also a subscriber. So that's, I think, what we
Well,
need
the
to
case is
know.
all about the right to access information freely, right? It asks whether large media outlets can legally agree to exclude smaller voices online or not, right? And the outcome could shape how open or closed our information spaces could become in the future. And I appreciate what it's trying to do, but ultimately, an opinion is an opinion and it should be heard whether you agree with it or not. And
Mm.
that's my opinion, at least.
So I hear that your value is about transparency. As a journalist, you want transparency.
Mhm.
And the assumption that the intentions of blocking transparency, that it might be good, for many people, they think the intention might not be good. So I'm just wondering how you came to the idea that the intention is good.
I don't say that it is good or isn't good. I
Okay.
think that what I think is when For example, you're sending journalists to Gaza, okay? Or rather, journalists are being sent into Gaza, and it's with Israel, with the IDF, because it is not safe. And I've heard from people who have been there, and I know who has been there. You could stand on a mine in a second. You have no idea what's underneath you. If you decide to just walk in there, you could say, "I'm willing to take a risk." No, you're not really willing to take a risk, and that's a silly thing to just make a statement. I'm willing to take. But there's two sides to that coin. Journalists want to see with their own eyes, and I get that. But it has to be done in a safe way. But then can you say, oh, are they using these parameters of safety to block the vision so that we can't see what's really there? I don't know. Who am I to judge that? But we do know it's a terrorist organization that basically runs the place. So chances are it's not too safe to be in. And there's always shots being fired in different locations depending on where you are. You just don't know what could be the case, where people are hiding. There's tunnels everywhere. So again, I was reading about the case today where they said that they were opening up Gaza for journalists, and now they're not just opening, they're going to come to a conclusion soon. I'm not giving my opinion, thank God I'm not the one who has to give the opinion, but as somebody who has seen what is going on, it is not a very safe place, and it is not a place you should run to refuge. It's scary. People who are living there don't want to be there. So chances are it's not too safe itself. However, I was also privy to knowing when I think it also was ABC News Australia that was on the border, I believe, by Gaza. And they were not given proper instruction by others about what they're seeing or what they're viewing, allegedly. And instead of saying, I'm here by X area, they said, and now I'm standing on the side that the Israelis did not want us to see. Now, to me, that's not being journalistic. That's just setting up a shot so that you already walk in with a mindset of they're wrong and everyone else could be right. That's not being journalistic. That's giving an opinion, and I don't like that.
Do you think that it's attracting those sort of journalists, people, as you said, it's a risky area to go into, are people that are already biased or they want to push a certain agenda more likely to take on the role of journalists in the area?
No, I mean, I know somebody that went in that is he's actually not Jewish at all. He was one of the first people there. Um, No, he wanted to see with his own eyes so that when you're talking to somebody, you can see and you can comment and say, I saw this. It was the longest 3 hours of this person's life. This is what they said. It was a war zone. It was a war zone. But rightfully so. It had to be destroyed, but it was a war zone. So if you're gonna, and then there's also areas that are not a war zone and that are not being shown because they're not in the area that's accessible. So it's a give and take here, but I don't believe that it's not being shown because they don't want to, but at the same time, I don't know.
The ABC journalist you were referring to, I don't know if it's exactly the same report, but as he was finishing his report, he referred to the brave journalists who had been operating in Gaza. He used that adjective, which immediately shows a certain bias, doesn't it, Ariella?
Absolutely. It's again giving an opinion over fact. Stick to what you see, what you hear, and what you've learned and what you've observed, not what I have thought I will think and I will do. That is not what journalism is. In fact, I saw another journalist who posted on their Instagram stories, this is not right. I am outraged these journalists were killed. They are like my brethren. No, they're not. Are you telling us that you're also a terrorist working for a major news organization? So when you have now the responsibility of, speaking for many as a representative in the Middle East, you are no longer just representing yourself, your feelings, and your families. You're now giving your own opinion, but it shouldn't be. It should be just the fact of what you see, think, hear, learn, observe. That's the first thing I learned about journalism. In fact, I'll reference when I was working at CNN many years ago. We spent the whole day writing, our script for our program that evening. And I'll never forget, it was about 10 minutes or 12 minutes before our show was to go on. And they said, kill the rundown, which means next, got to come up with something new. Why? Oh, we learned on Twitter at the time that Osama bin Laden was killed. And that was the first major news event, at least for me, that I remember that was being reported on Twitter. Now X, of course. And we had to kill the rundown and within 12 minutes come up with completely new narratives, ideas, information on something we learned like 5 seconds ago. So my entire script I remember writing. We have now learned, we have now observed, we have now thought, and every word, therefore, there's no culpability. And also, by the way, we quoted many newswires, none of us ourselves. So these are all the tricks up the sleeves, but not meant to be, but just to make sure this is what a good journalist, I would say, would do, so that they're not held accountable for lousy journalism because they weren't on the ground.